ourselves a little bit more room. So now we're going to go after these lines right here. So you can see that one. That one goes up there, but there's a couple lines here. So we're going to go ahead and get that bottom one right there in the middle of the screen. Bust that one loose. See if we can drain out most of the fluid. But I also want to go after that line while it's still hooked in here, so I can get good leverage on it and get it busted loose. And then we'll go after that one right there in the middle as well, I believe, before we start trying to take all of these bolts off of here and actually drop the rack. We got to do the tie rod ends too, but still, I'm going to start right there with that thing. All right, part of this process, you got to pull these tie rod ends out. Pretty standard stuff. So that is a 19 millimeter wrench. I got lucky and was able to bust mine loose right there with just a wrench. No extracurricular activity required. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen that one. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Hopefully I can just tap it with a hammer real quick and it'll pop out. But regardless, we'll get that thing out of there. I'll let you know if I had any problems with it, but hopefully not. Other than that, we'll get the other one on that side, on the driver's side, and then we'll finish pulling all the bolts out under here so that we can work on dropping this thing. And I'll show you where all those bolts are so you can see them, but right now I'm going to focus on this and the other one before I get the rack loose. So again, I can beat on these things, get them done without a floppy rack down there. Okay, everybody. So we got this pretty close to being all the way off. As far as the bolts go, there was one right up there. That one, well, there's all those lines right there. There was a bolt right there. That one was really easy, just came right out. Now you come back here and you got this one, which is a 17 mil. So was that first one. There's a 17 mil right here, and then back here, 17 mil, 17 mil. Now those are bolts that go up through, as you can see, and up over the top of that little lip right there is the top of the bolt. Now it spins, so you got to get something up there. The problem is I couldn't get a socket to go over there on a couple of them because they're just so close to the head of the bolt is so close to that lip that it wouldn't work. So I had to get my my wrench. I'm sorry, these are 19s, not 17s. I lied to you. So anyways, I had to get a wrench and kind of angle it in a funky way and kind of where it just barely bit the bolt up top with the open end, and managed to get it done. So that's that and that. Once you finish that, then you can see these smaller ones right here. These are 13s. Those are easy. They don't spin. At least mine don't. So there's 4 of those 13s. You know, those are pretty easy. These aren't. I had to take that. These are the starter cables. I had to loosen that clamp right there so I could wiggle these, so I could get my little ratchet up there with an adapter, because you don't get at least I don't have a 1/4 inch drive 17. I keep saying what these things are. Yeah, they're 17s. Anyway, it's all those big ones, 4 big ones are 17s. But anyway, I don't have a 17 that fits on here, so then I had to get a little adapter and all that stuff. But I was finally able to get this up top and then get these bolts off. Now, the other thing you got to do is right up in here, it goes through on the side. There is a little 13 mil bolt, goes here. The other one comes out here. That comes out, and once that happens, then that allows you to pull this little swivel joint off the top of the steering rack right here. So that's basically it. 5 17 mils, 4 13 mils. The 13 mil bolt has got to come out of there, and then your tie rod ends, and all these hoses that are under here. There's 3 of those that I've connected. I think that 4th one that I have right there is part of the rack. We'll find out though. Anyway, I think as soon as I get that bolt out, this thing should come down. So we'll see. All right, so like I said, I finished getting that one bolt off. So that side comes all the way off, no problem. This little plate that holds it in dropped off. So you can see where all the holes are for that. You can see the bolts up here, both the bigger ones and the smaller ones. That one hard line I left connected is part of the rack because it goes over there and reconnects. Now all I should have to do is wiggle that off of the steering shaft swivel right there, and this thing should come down, because from what I can tell, that's the only thing holding it. So I'll work on doing that and hopefully show you this thing out from under the car here in a second. All right, everybody, success. Got this thing out. As you can see here, it's out on the floor. There's that tray that holds it right there. That's actually the bottom of it, this side. It sits in the car like that. So make a loud noise. You see that's all full of dirt, junk, and grime. But it sits like that. This was the side that was leaking really the worst. As you can see, this boot is pretty much complete and total junk. I mean, it's disintegrated. So there's that line. There's a second hard line right there. I actually undid that one because I wasn't sure which one was which, but that one I didn't need to undo. You can see these bushings. That one's completely trashed. I got new ones from 928 or us. You can come over here and see this thing. Also complete junk. Worn out, like everything is just busted apart. Up here on this, as I was trying to show you, under the car, I had taken the bolt out of this bottom one and I just couldn't get it to move. So then I had to wiggle around and take the bolt out of this one. And then once I had done that, I had to beat on this part right here a little bit because it was just the right angle. So I tapped it with a hammer some. Nothing too wild, just gave it some taps, and that allowed the shaft to come out of here. So when we get ready to put that back together, we'll put some, some WD-40 or something on it there to help it come back together. I'll get the bolt on that one, obviously. So now I'm gonna get me a folding table, get this thing up on the table and start busting it apart and show you guys, hopefully show you how to successfully rebuild it. But if not, then you'll get to see me unsuccessfully rebuild it and then have to buy one rebuilt anyway. So anyway, we'll do all that after I go take a quick break, get some dinner, and then come back down here and get all this set up and get to work. Okay, so well, shed, got myself a table here. This one is just one side. So I'm gonna still roll around, do what I gotta do with this thing. Now, first things first, walk you through what's going on. That obviously is I don't know, it's not busted, but it looks like it's actually been replaced at some point. Sorry, my camera work doing both things. But it is super rusty. I've put some WD-40 on here. See if I can work on being able to get that off, because I got new tie rod ends. Now this inner tie rod actually looks new, and as you can see, this thing's sitting up off the table, and I can actually pick the whole thing up with it and it doesn't flop around, so it's good. Now I do not have a wrench big enough for that because it's got to go right here. It is bigger than 25 millimeters. It's probably looking close to, I don't know, 28 or 30. I'll try to look up and see what that is tonight. And then of course you got to get a wrench on here to be able to work on trying to get that inner tie rod in taken apart, which we got to do in order to be able to get the rest of this built out, from what I understand. You can see these bushings are no good. Hard lines here, so we'll go ahead and take those off tonight. I know I can do that. And then work on trying to see what other stuff I can start to disassemble as it is. I cut the boots off. You can see those are sitting right there. They are not in good shape, fell apart, Just a little bit of help from a pocket knife and those came off. Now you get over here to this end. This thing also looks pretty rusty. This has not been replaced, it doesn't look like. This really has doesn't even have a place to put a wrench on it very good. Somebody has used some sort of vice grips or something and actually crunched it right there, you can see. So, or maybe that's where it's supposed to be done, because this one's different, I'm not sure. But we'll figure out what's happening there. But the other part is, this side just flops around like a fish. So, looks like I'm gonna need to order a inner tie rod end on this side. So we'll look at doing that too. I didn't order them off the jump because I didn't want to spend money on something I didn't need. Figured I'd get in here and figure it out, and I figured out I need it. So that's that. We'll go ahead and, like I said, we'll work on getting the top part up here off. I got to work on getting the rest of that swivel joint off, and just do what we can do tonight. And then we'll head to the store tomorrow and try to get the right size wrench to be able to do that inner tie rod in, and keep going from there. We'll get it busted apart, and you'll be able to, I'll have it all laid out here. You see all the pieces and parts, how it works out real good. All right, making some progress here. We got these two hard lines off. Really not that hard. Just a couple of 19mm bolts, and those come off. Obviously those are the two sides there, and then the other ones are around here, on this side. But you just undo that. Got this piece off here. It was still a little bit stubborn, so I stuck a couple flathead screwdrivers in this gap right here and kind of pried on it a little bit, just to try to spread that back open a touch. Then I put a screwdriver down between that part and this part, and kind of hit it from the side a little bit, but just tapped it some with a hammer and it came right off. So now we're going to go at these bolts right here and try to get those off, and then there's another piece right down here on the bottom that's got some bolts in it that we'll get out too. So we'll just keep moving along and disassembling this thing, and I'll set it all out here on the table for you so you can see it. Okay, so we took those bolts out. Those are 10mm. Not too hard. There they are. Took this little plastic cap off of here, just like a little dust cover. Mine is cracked because it's pretty brittle. And then what I did, I don't know if it's how they tell you to do it in the manual or not, but what we did is took the screwdriver here, put it right on this crack, which there wasn't one. It was really tight, like on this side over here. But just kind of set it where that is, and tried to angle it a little bit best I could. Found a place where it kind of, the cap poked up a little bit higher than the case. Tapped it with a hammer and busted that loose. So now we'll go ahead and finish prying that off before we flip this thing over and go after the piece down on the bottom. All right, flip this over. Now you can see all where the four different things are there. But we flipped that over. Now we're going to take those two out right there and get that apart. That's that lid once you get it all the way apart right there. We'll keep working on that. There's some O-rings and stuff there that obviously are being our kit. That's what the inside of that looks like. So we're just going to keep working. Okay, so those were 13mm bolts. You can see those two right there. That's the underside of this lid, so it's mounted on the rack this way, like this. So I just flipped it over. You can see it's pretty gunky in there, and you can see on here this is pretty gunky. I will wipe my finger across that for you there and see that that's just like really nasty. It's kind of the low point in the steering rack, so this thing definitely need to get rebuilt. All right, now we're really getting to the guts of this thing. So basically what I did is just grab the shaft right here and just kind of give it some firm tugs, and I was able to pull it right out of there. You can see we got ball bearings, all that kind of stuff. So I'll keep pulling that out, get it going. Obviously now that we've kind of broken some of the suction, let some air in and stuff, I'm starting to get some more fluid coming out on the table, but we'll keep pulling this apart, try to keep track of everything best we can, go back and watch our own videos when we need to, take some pictures, and try to make sure we can get this going. All right, we're going to start working on these tie rod ends. I was able to get this busted loose. That nut right there is a 22 millimeter. On this particular shaft right there is where you put the 16 millimeters, what worked for me. I was able to hold that together, do a little contortion to be able to keep the rack steady, but I got that one busted loose. So now, as you can see, we can back this out. What I did find last night doing some research is over here, like I said, I got to replace this because this thing is just completely trash for the inner tie rod. I can buy a set of these whole things, so inner and outer tie rods, for slightly more than one full and one tie rod end. It's about $30 difference to just go ahead and buy the set instead of keeping this inner tie rod end, even though it's good. So I think I'm going to do that. I'll return the tie rod ends that I bought and just put brand new complete tie rods on both ends of this thing. So that's what we're going to work on. Okay guys, I had to go pick this up today, so fun day, getting more tools. Up to Harbor Freight again. I try to keep these things as cheap as I can while still getting the tools that I need. So this one is a Maddox. They had a Pittsburgh one too, but this one just looked better, so I went with this one. As you can see, here's all your different discs, multiple different sizes of them right there. Pretty small, well, smaller on this side. Gets way up to almost 2 inches on that side, but anyway, that's my set that I bought. So here is this. I've got it set up. I'm actually using the 1 1/4 because you put those little discs on right here. The one I'm using is 1 1/4. 22 millimeter wrench here, 1/2 inch breaker bar on that end. So that's what I got set up. So again, I'll work on trying to put some force on this and bust that inner tie rod off, and then move to the other side and do the same thing on the other side. So I'll come back at you when I'm on to the next step of disassembling that thing right there, because it's got to come off that tube. The result is I was able to bust that loose, get the inner tie rod end apart. There you can see that little little wafer thing or whatever that goes on there. 1 1/4 is what fit really tight. So that's the one I used. So anyway, got this end completely apart. Now down to that end, and then we'll get the rack back up on the table and work on the next step. Okay, well, like I told you, we got both ends of the complete tie rods off, so that's all done. But now what we're working on is these end caps here that you got to take off in order to get the stuff. This one over here is the same way. But what you got is this little collar right here, and you can see these little notches. Now, Porsche probably makes some special tool that goes in there, and you can do that pretty easy. I don't know. I don't have that tool. I'll check the manual and see what, probably says special tool number 47 or something like that. But anyway, that's that thing. What I did was use the old handy dandy screwdriver, that one right there, flathead, and kind of caught it on the edge of this little groove, and it works just like normal. So it needs to go this way to unscrew, and then this piece needs to go, that way to undo. So really what I did was put it down on the ground. The whole thing will twist, because see, this just rides, but then there's a ridge right here that keeps this from coming off the end. So that's why this whole thing will just spin. So you can't just hit these things and twist it. But what I did was twist it up enough so that this side was off the ground, and I could step on it and stabilize it and all that kind of stuff. And then the way this was that groove right there was lined up right up here.
So then I put the screwdriver here, going this way, and I hit this side over here. And I did that a few different times, a little bit harder and harder, until finally I realized that this was no longer lined up with that, which meant that it was twisting. And then I was able to just kind of keep doing that. And eventually I got to a point where I could, get it all the way off. Then this piece, I just started kind of wiggling it. I did tap it just a touch with the screwdriver, the hammer, screwdriver, what am I saying? In order to get this to come all the way off like this. Obviously fluid came out, but there's that thing. That's my first time looking in it. So I'll look in it a little bit closer. It does look a little strange, like there's something torn up, but this is where the leak was right here on this end. So I'll keep disassembling this. We'll clean all this stuff up. There's that little Ninja throwing star washer deal. But anyway, I got this end off, and we will keep working. All right, here you go. Everything's laid out on the table. Got it all exploded for you. So I'll start on this end. So this is what's inside of this deal there. I'm using the cap right there on the bottom to help hold this so it doesn't roll around. But basically this is how this goes. You got this thing, you got this, which is some ball bearings and another couple pieces there. Then you put the cap on, and then this is just a little plastic like I don't know, protection thing, dust cover. Those are the 3 bolts you use to put the cover on, and then that's what goes and connects it to the steering column. Like I showed you before, you've got these 2 hard lines up here. They go on the tube, or well, one goes over there, one goes right here. Those are also pretty self-explanatory how they go. This piece is the spring and the cap, the 2 screws that hold it. That goes down on the bottom side of this that I showed you before. We got the tube off. Now on this end, you got that little Ninja throwing star, the little white plastic washer thing there, and then you've got the end cap. The tube itself, like I told you, that piece right there that spins, that's the threaded piece. There's a ridge that keeps it from coming off the end. Same on this end. Here's your threaded piece, and there's a ridge that keeps it from coming off the end. So there probably is a tool that goes for that, that Porsche makes for themselves, but obviously, like most of us garage mechanics, we don't have those kind of tools. So what we had to do on this end down here, the whole thing swiveled around and was able to move around some. So, but basically, like I said, hammer and a flathead screwdriver. On this end, we tried doing that a little bit. It wasn't working very good. So we put some heat on it, warmed it up some after some WD-40 and other things, but we were able to finally get a screwdriver in this little, you can see it's a little boogered up, but it doesn't actually use the threads don't come all the way out to this edge. But anyway, that's the danger, is you can mess this thing up some trying to get it apart, but we tried to do it the best we could. But that's what we had to do, was put it down on the floor, stand on it, all that kind of good stuff, and then just whack it. Figured I was either going to break it or get it, and if I broke it, then I have to buy a steering rack. If I didn't break it, then I'd be able to do the rebuild. So there's all the parts. Yeah, those are little spacers that go on the end, like right here. So same on this end, it'll go on this end, slides over the tube, all that kind of stuff. But you'll see on the reassembly. But I just wanted to lay it out here for you, show you where all the pieces are. Now we're going to get our rebuild kit out, start digging through this and changing out the different gaskets. There it is apart. You can see you got your snap ring, a little retaining washer thing. This is the I guess gasket piece that goes underneath this, which is kind of that middle section there that you saw sticking up. So that sits right in the middle between that. You can see the grooves for the snap rings. There's the other retaining ring, the other snap ring. Then this piece comes off. Kind of had to give it a little bit of a jerk to move it off. It came out that end. It did not want to go the other way. It was just pretty tight, but anyway, got it off of there. There's some more disassembly down here. You can see this other kind of Ninja Star washer, which is held on because all that stuff is there. But we'll start digging through that. I just don't want to get too far apart with all the washers and stuff, gaskets and things, before I start putting some stuff back together. I don't want to get too lost, but here we go. We got it pretty well torn to pieces. Now, wish me luck getting it back together. Okay, we got this thing apart just a little bit more, so that's that cylinder there. I pulled the washer, O-ring, that little plastic piece right there. There's still a clip on there, but I'm not taking that off, you Ninja Star. And then in here, I pulled this seal out, which sits like this. And you know, you got the groove part is facing out, so it sits in there like that. And then this thing, which is your washer, one side's round, one side's flat, this spacer thing, whatever it is. So that goes in that way because inside the tube, you can see it's kind of rounded in there. So anyway, that's the rest of that I got taken apart. Now I'm working on this little metal ring that goes right there. You know, it's all that stuff I showed before. So what I did is I got a little set of picks, Harbor Freight, like $3. Ran a pick down in there, pulled that out. So now we'll get that the rest of the way out. But if you're gonna do this, looks like you need some picks. And then the other thing you're gonna need to get that out of there is a seal puller. So I'm gonna go grab one of those. I've needed one for a while, but I'll go look, see what sizes they got and stuff, and see if I can get one to try to do that the right way instead of trying to finagle some wrong way to do it. Sorry, I was showing you the wrong piece. What I meant to say was to get that one out of there. So you can see the black thing in there. That's what I got to get out. But I need a seal puller to pull that out. Anyway, I want to screw that up, so I'm going to go get the right tool and finish that. But just keep moving along. All right, to show you how bad this needed redoing. So there's that. Now that it's apart, you can see there's a fairly deep groove down in there. And there were two. So there was this thing on the outside and then this thing inside. As you can tell, they both broke. So as soon as I tried to stretch them to get them out of that little groove, they just gave up. So it shows you they've been in there for a while, breaking down like rubber does, and this was definitely needed. But it'll be way better when we get done with it. So we're working on the different seals. Pull these off the ends, the little pick there, and we got the two new ones right here. So there's one on each end. Put it on. Yeah. Guest appearance by the chickens. Thought they would come in and help us out. So the last piece I wanted to show you here, that we didn't really show you disassembling. So in here, down in there, you see down in there is these three things right here, and they're in there like that, then like this with the open side up. So that's in there like that. And then this little metal piece. So that's how it goes down in there like that. So what I did, there's enough of this that you can catch it from this side with a screwdriver. So I just put a screwdriver down in there, whacked it, and as you push this, it pushes into this, which pushes into this, and the whole shebang comes out of there. So that's how that works out. Now, the video I watched says that this metal piece right here is actually supposed to be a nylon piece, which is in the kit, which is this thing. And when I put it right here, it looks like it fits right there. So, pretty sure that's where that goes, to replace that metal piece. I'm not sure if it replaces it, quite frankly, or if it just goes in there too. But the video I watched said it goes in there instead of. So anyway, we'll figure that out, but more than likely that'll just go in there instead of this. We'll replace this, and then this goes back in. There is a little bit of a lip on that side and no lip on this side, so gotta make sure we get this thing back in right too. I know which way it came out was like this, but I gotta double check and make sure that that's the way it goes back in. I'm pretty sure, but we'll double check and make sure. But we'll get all that pounded back in there too. The rest of this stuff's pretty well done. We've replaced all those. We've replaced all the stuff on that. This is our little driver piece that we got, to drive in gaskets and seals and stuff. So anyway, we'll finish working on all this stuff, and then we'll start putting it all back together, because really this is the last piece, and then we can get it together. Okay guys, there you can see my seal driver stuff. So we got this back together. So the nylon washer, we used that one, which replaced that metal one, right? So we use a nylon one, and then that's the old seal, the new one's in there. Remember, when you do that, you want the, like I showed you before, the open side up. That side's flat, open side up. Then you put that metal collar in there with the little lip on this side. And once you got that done, then you got this little clip that came out of there. So you can see that's got a little lip on it. So then you're going to take that and you're going to put it down in here into this little lip, or into this little collar there. So when you're done, it looks like that. Now I'll tell you, this was where mine was leaking. It was all coming out of this end right here. And I think what was happening was that metal collar was not driven down flush like that. It was actually, there was a gap there. You can see how it's all the way down up against the washer, or the little rubber gasket thing. It was not like that. It was sticking up like a 1/4 inch. So honestly, I think that's why it was leaking. I don't know if somebody tried to rebuild this before and screwed it up, because I can't imagine they did that from the factory. But it was not seated all the way flat like it is right now, which is right up against that washer, which helps hold everything together and keep the pressure in. So I think that's why it was leaking before. So hopefully it won't leak anymore once we get it back together. But really, that's the last seal we have to do. And at that point, we are going to go ahead and start working on reassembly. Just to go over, so there's that. You got one on each end of this tube. We had the seals in here that we showed you. Basically just a new rubber one on the right end. Here, there's a new seal you press in there. On here, single blue nylon thing. Right here replaced a thinner nylon and a rubber. And then you put all this, there's one inside, like behind there too. Snap rings, put all that back together. Over here on this one, there's nothing else to put in here except for that one that's down there that we showed you. So that's that one. We replaced that. Come over here. Each one of these, we pulled off like a whitish nylon, and then there's a little black rubber one underneath. So each one of these, so the kit had 4 apiece. So you just do that there. Let me move that over. So here's your lid. You've got that in here, so right in there. That one comes out pretty easy. You can push it out from this side, pops out. Then you just pound the next one in, and then right here around this lip, there's a new one right there. And then this piece, which is a dust cap, that once you get everything done, and it basically slides back on top of here. But there's a new one of those in the kit too, which is good because that one's all hard and broken, and the new one is actually rubber and flexible. So anyway, that's all the seals. We'll fix the ones on the lines. We got the little ones like this when we go to put the hard lines back on. But basically that's it. We'll get this thing all put back together. We'll step through that. But that's the next step. Got to put up the chickens and walk the dogs first though. All right guys, here we go. Got this all back together. Me and the son sat down and started reconstructing everything last night. Just running you along here, give you a good look at it. All put back together, fairly clean. Tried to do what we could without wasting too much time on trying to get every piece of dirt off. We do still have to get these, I guess whatever protective things there. It has to come all the way up to here, but that thing right there is pretty strong. And it was midnight last night, so we stopped. And we'll work on it. But here it is, all back together. Been cleaned up some. Got the new tie rod ends, or tie rods. Just bought the whole thing. Got those on there since one of them was bad anyway. So just went ahead and bought a set of them. So anyway, that's it. All done. Now we're gonna pause on this, set it to the side. But we'll come back to it and put it all in one video for you, but we're just going to set this aside now, and we're going to swing over here and start working on those brakes and the front shocks, see if we can get those things done. But in the meantime, this is pretty much done except for those boots. All right everybody, now that we got the brakes, suspension, all that stuff is done, put back together, sensors hooked up, everything. Now, the next step before we can put the front tires on this thing and get it back down on the ground and take it for a test drive is putting this thing in. So we're gonna go ahead and work on putting this in. Not 100% sure how I'm gonna do it by myself, but we'll figure it all out. Then this is the tray that goes on the bottom of it. As you can see, there's a bolt that goes over here, and there's 4 bigger bolts on the corners and 4 smaller bolts in the middle. But we'll work on getting that all put back together, and then hook those tie rod ends up, and then that sucker over there is the last step. But for the steering, now that we've rebuilt it, this is where we get to put it back in. All right, let's get down here and take a look at this. So we got this back in. Here you go. You can see the plate. All the bolts are back in. Including right up there. There's another one right there. So all that's done. Right here is your connections. So those 2 that you see right there prominently are the ones that come from the pump. So you connect those back up, and then you got to get back up there, and you got to adjust. Camera work is struggling, but anyway, you got to connect that back up. I had it connected, that U-joint thing connected to the steering rack, and then I put it on the steering shaft, which is up there, and then you tighten up that one bolt right there, which are 13 millimeters. Anyway, it's all back in. So now we're going to do the tie rod ends, and then from there we'll move on to another project, which is finishing up the sway bar. All right, let's finish up the steering. We'll get down here and show you. We got the tie rod end hooked up. So it's all eyeballed at this point, but I got the steering wheel straight. And then I got both of the front wheels straight as I could, and then got it all hooked up. As you can see, this one's cocked over to the right just a little bit. But steering wheel is also crooked because as I was pulling and twisting on it down here to tighten it, it shifted a little bit and locked the steering wheel there. So anyway, we'll take it to an alignment shop and they'll work on fixing it up. But it's all back together now. And next, that's it for the steering, really. Rebuilt it, got it put back together, got it back up underneath the car, hooked back up to the drive shaft. That part does work, as far as I know. I'll give that a test out. But anyway, it's all hooked up. Now, I said I wanted to put it down and go for a test drive after I got this steering hooked back up. But unfortunately, I can't do that because I got to get over here and go after that steering pump down there. That thing, which is a mess that somebody sprayed a bunch of crap on to try to hide that it was leaking. But we got to rebuild that thing before we can fill it all back up with fluid, or else we're just wasting money. So I won't get it down on the ground today and drive it, but at least that the steering rack rebuild, reinstall, hooking everything back up with new tie rod ends and all is done at this point. So anyway, that's it.